Well, it is the Classic Cafe at One Arts Plaza. We call it the WRR Music Lounge because we love to have live performers up here. Steinway Hall is kind enough to lend us a wonderful piano to use. And I'm glad to have returning to the show after a couple of years when he last visited Gustavo Romero. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, it's great to have you back. There's a lot I know going on in your life and career. In fact, you have a new exciting thing dedicated. It's all about you, and it's a 2-DVD set called Gustavo Romero, Portrait in Piano. This is fascinating. How did this project come about?
I had the great fortune 2 years ago to be approached by Snapshots Foundation, and they wanted to do a documentary on me and just film the story of what happened to me when I left California at the age of 14 to study in New York. And so for 2 summers, we filmed in San Diego, California, when I was celebrating the 200th anniversary of Chopin, and last year the 200th anniversary of Liszt. And we did a lot of taping of works by Chopin and Liszt, and in several halls in San Diego. And we also filmed in New York with an interview with David Dubal, the great writer and piano.
Right, that's a remarkable person to get involved with this. I mean, probably the reigning expert on piano music in the United States.
That's right, Kurt. Really the piano person in America at this point.
I know it might be embarrassing, but what did David Dubal have to say about
Well, you got to see the DVD. He said some very, very nice things because he remembers me from studying at Juilliard in his class, and he's heard me play several times in concert. So that was great to have that New York filming included. But it took 2 years and 2 summers, and it finally was screened in January, and it's out now this month in June. And I'm just very fortunate that somebody would want to even do a DVD filming story, a documentary on me.
Your story, as I know it, is fascinating. I know your heritage goes back to Guadalajara, right? And,
yes.
And then your childhood spent in California there, but something made you end up at Juilliard. What was it?
Well, I had the great fortune to enter a competition in New York to play with the New York Philharmonic when I was 13, and I won. I got to play with the Phil and in a televised concert by CBS. And so once I went to go see the city, and I fell in love with New York, and it was decided at that point that I would leave San Diego and go study at Juilliard. So I went for 4 years of pre-college, 2 years of master's, and including my bachelor's. So it was 10 years at the school.
Yeah. Well, I know last time you were here, you played a remarkable piece of music, and very unusual in its texture and its use of the piano. And we frankly wanted to encourage you to play it again on today's show. It's music by a composer named Fazil Say, who's also, I happen to know, a fantastic pianist. Tell me, this piece, I understand, is featured pretty prominently in the DVD, is that right?
Yes, it was used as the trailer, and because I started playing it about 2 years ago, and everybody was so interested in this piece, and I would play a whole concert, and then I'd play this as an encore, and all they talk about is just this encore piece. And everywhere I go, it's quite a conversation piece, and I'm particularly interested in playing it now because Fazil Say happens to be in a little bit of trouble now. He said,
of what sort?
Well, he happened to have said he proclaims himself as atheist, and he says something against some of the Muslim values of his country in Turkey, and so he's now going to be put on trial in October, and it's just, you know, a pianist, innocent pianist who's contributed, a composer, pianist who has contributed so much to the music world.
Well, this isn't particularly a political show, but it is always fascinating with people like this. Daniel Barenboim's another one. Many people actually find themselves in a very political situation as classical composers these days. Tell us about this piece that you're going to play, Black Earth, and what do you think the title's all about?
Well, it's very interesting because it's inspired by poetry from Turkey. There's a kind of poet troubadour figure, Veysel, who Fazil Say admires very much, and there's a popular song, Kara Toprak, And in this song, he says, all that remains after loneliness and wandering is the black earth. And that's a particular region in Turkey that has supposedly this very dark earth. So it has a particular technique where I dampen the strings with my fingers. So it's an imitation of a Turkish instrument called the saz. So it's very exotic, and everywhere I go, people say it reminds them of the music of their country. So the last time I played it, somebody says, oh, it reminds me about Romanian music. So it conjures up a lot of memories.
Well, I wish the audience could watch you play it, because it's as fascinating to watch as it is to hear. But in any case, you'll enjoy the music of Fazil Say, Black Earth, with Gustavo Romero. Fazl Say's Black Earth, in a performance today by Gustavo Romero, live at the WRR Music Lounge at One Arts Plaza. Thank you for that really evocative performance, Gustavo Romero. Now, you mentioned that Fazl Say is in some sort of political trouble. This is a trial that's coming up that's taking place in Turkey, is that correct? Or?
Yes, he's in, I guess, in exile in Japan.
Okay. Do you feel like there's a possibility he may have to serve some time?
I don't know, but
what we would, from me from the outside, not having investigated the case, sounds like what we would call a free speech case. You know.
Right, but it's just so unusual to have such a pianist composer under fire in the news recently. So I just thought it's a.
I'm glad you played that again. Now I know you have a reputation for really focusing in on a certain composer every year or so. You seem to move on to new territory, but I think last time you were here, you were really going in depth with the music of Liszt on his 200th birth anniversary. Who are you concentrating on these days?
Well, it's been now 13 years of composer anniversaries, or these one-focused programs on one composer. This year, it's the 150th anniversary of Debussy. Yes. So there are 4 recitals that I'm playing of piano music of Debussy, and they were a bit worried about the ticket sales because of this composer, so they asked me to add something else. So I found it's the 75th death anniversary of Gershwin, so I'm pairing the 2 composers together.
I see. And
even it's not too bad of a connection, because Gershwin went to study in Paris, and actually he went to go see Ravel. Yes. And that's the famous story where he went to go see Ravel, and Ravel said, "How much money do you make, Mr. Gershwin?" And he must have said something, very attractive, and it startled Ravel so much, so he said, "In that case, Mr. Gershwin, I should be studying with you." I'll be playing 2 of these programs at the University of North Texas at the end of August as well.
Excellent. But you're taking this on tour coming up in the next month or so?
Yes, I go up the coast of California and I play tryout performances to prepare myself for these 4 big programs of a lot of Debussy's piano music. And so I'm particularly interested in a piece that I'm playing by Gershwin, which is an arrangement of the themes from Porgy and Bess by the pianist Earl Wild. It's a big fantasy on Porgy and Bess for 30 minutes, and it's an extraordinarily well-written piece. Pianistically, you can imagine Earl Wild was one of the greatest piano transcribers, arrangers, and a wonderful pianist, so it's a big, wonderful piece to play.
Very challenging technically, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes. So it's great fun. And the public loves it because they recognize all these great tunes from Porgy and Bess.
So Debussy, I mean, to me, that would be one of the first things I'd buy tickets for. I mean, Debussy's piano music, it seems like that would, for a pianist, really having the opportunity to dig deep would be amazing. Have you found made any discoveries about Debussy in the process?
Well, it's been, the interesting thing about Debussy is that he wrote such wonderful piano music, and there's so much of it that you end up studying a lot of it as you're growing up. So putting this together hasn't been so difficult. Yeah. And in putting it together, I listened to a lot of the earlier pieces, which aren't so well known. The Valse Romantique, the Ballade, and the Nocturne, which I would like to play today.
Oh, great, great. So this is a very early work, the Nocturne, maybe around the time he was writing the arabesques and things like that?
Yes, all those earlier, smaller pieces.
Wonderful. Well, I want to say, before we say goodbye to you, I'm going to let you go ahead and play us out on this piece of music. I do want to encourage people to look into this DVD that's being put out, 2-DVD set, called Gustavo Romero Portrait in Piano. I believe Snapshotsfoundation.com is the central source to find out information and to make an order. It should be a fantastic release. I can't wait to see it myself. Gustavo Romero Portrait in Piano, 2 DVDs, and let's enjoy this music of Claude Debussy on the Classic Cafe at One Arts Plaza. Gustavo Romero. Debussy's Nocturne for piano, played by Gustavo Romero, here on WRR FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth Classical 101.